Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We are continuing on Masechet Succah, and we are on Daf Memvav, Amud Bet, 14 lines down from the top of the Amud. But we're going to do a quick Chazara from the two dots, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, 6 lines down from the top. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zchut Refuah Shelema for Rachel bat Edna, Michael ben Nahid, Toda Rabba, Esther Bracha bat Chaya, Rabbi Avraham ben Tashgol, and especially for Refuah Shelema of Rachel Simcha bat Nahid, that should all have Refuah Shelema Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. Today's Amud is also being learned as a Zchut for the Neshama of Jacqueline bat Avraham Anachdas, that the Neshama should have an Aliyah. This week's learning of the community has been graciously dedicated by the Shea family, Dayan family, and Cohen families. It should be an ultimate Zchut for all their Mishpachot. Amen. So, we started Amar Rabbi Yochanan, etrog b'shvi asur b'shemini mutar. We had two opinions as to what the halacha is going to be on the 7th day and the 8th day of Chag HaSukkot. As far as the Sukkah is concerned, can I use the Sukkah on Shmini Atzeret, which really it's a different Chag, it's not Chag HaSukkot anymore. Can I take something from the woods of the Sukkah? Can I use it? Like obviously, taking it off on Yom Tov would be asur, like the Tosfot says over here. But even if it falls by itself, if something falls from the Sukkah, can I take that piece of wood, the schach, and use it, or is it gonna be muktzeh? And also, as far as my etrog is concerned, can I bite into my etrog after I'm done with my Hoshanot in the morning of Hoshana Rabbah? Can I use it? Can I eat it? Can I cook it and use it? Or do I have to wait because it's muktzeh? So we saw two separate shitot of Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. So far we started this discussion yesterday. So Rabbi Yochanan says, etrog b'shvi asur, b'shemini mutar. Etrog is going to be asur the entire day of Hoshana Rabbah, the 7th day of Chag HaSukkot, but already in Shmini is going to be mutar. Now, don't get too excited. You'll say, what's there for Shmini? Shmini, we don't even take the lulav and etrog. So of course it's going to be mutar, right? We take it for granted, this shita of Rabbi Yochanan, until another 2 minutes, that you see there is really a third shita of Levi that holds that even that is going to be asur. But Rabbi Yochanan holds etrog, and 7th day is asur, even after you finished putting down your lulav and etrog after the Hoshanot, after Hoshana Rabbah morning, still is going to be asur until the night. Already at night, it becomes mutar. Once you enter the 8th day, it will be mutar. And says, Rabbi Yochanan, Sukkah afiru b'shemini asura. Sukkah is going to be asur even on the 8th day. So now we have to describe what exactly the difference is according to Rabbi Yochanan, because why would Sukkah be any different than lulav and etrog? Both of them is Shivat Yamim. Basukot teshvu, Shivat Yamim. Right? And also by lulav and etrog, it says Shivat Yamim. Right? Shivat Yamim iftar Shem Elokecha. We mentioned B'Makom Asher Yivchar. So we mentioned that both of them are 7. So you have to know what's the differentiating factors. So says the Gemara. Resh Lakish is a little bit more lenient. It says not only the lulav and etrog is mutar on the 8th day, but it's even mutar on the 7th day after you've done your mitzvah. After you shook your lulav and etrog the morning of Hoshana Rabbah, the 7th day, then you could use it. You could eat it on the 7th already. But my kamiflegi, says the Gemara, what's the machloket? More savar lemitzvat ha'it umor savar lekule yoma it kasai. This is a shas machloket. When you talk about muktzeh, how do you view something that became muktzeh on Ben Hashmashot? So if Ben Hashmashot, it was muktzeh, is it going to stay muktzeh the entire time? Or when something is, usually that's the halacha for muktzeh, by the way, right? We explained this yesterday, that when you have any halachot of muktzeh, if something was not usable, was specifically designated for something of Isur. So your phone is Asur, and you put your phone on something else deliberately, and then you forgot it there on your pillow. So the pillow now is muktzeh if the phone was on the pillow the entirety, the duration of Berash Mashot. That's the halachot of muktzeh usually. If something is muktzeh on Berash Mashot, it stays muktzeh for the entire Shabbat or for an entire Yom Tov. So here, it should be really very logical what Rabbi Yochanan is saying, that once it became muktzeh, it should stay muktzeh the entire seventh day. You can't just eat it now. Even though that you're quote unquote done with it, you did your mitzvah, still should stay muktzeh le kule yoma. So what's the svarav Resh Lakish? Resh Lakish says, no, you're done with it, you chazaku baruch, you're good to go, you can eat it. So Resh Lakish holds that the muktzeh of mitzvah is different. If something was muktzeh just because, not because, etrog is not muktzeh, etrog is food, right? But this etrog is muktzeh because I specified it for my mitzvah. So I specified it for my mitzvah on the seventh day of Chag HaSukkot, and therefore, once I am done with that specification, it's mutar, right? Then it's going to be mutar. So says the Gemara, more savar lekule yoma itkasai, and more savar lemitzvata itkasai. Now, the Resh Lakish has a line of attack to Rabbi Yochanan from our Mishnah. Itve Resh Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Resh Lakish says, wait a second. In our Mishnah, in Masechet Succah, it says that at the end of the 7 days, when they finish their nanuim on the seventh day of Chag HaSukkot, the elders, the adults, would go and grab the etrogim of the minors, the tinokot, and they would eat them. And they would eat them when? Of course, that day, on seventh day. How are they allowed to eat them if they are itkasai lekule yoma? If you are correct, Rabbi Yochanan, that the muktzeh remains for the whole day, how are they allowed to, forget about snatching it from their hand? Rashi already said that that's not a problem of Darkei Shalom, that's not a problem of stealing, right? We spoke about this already before in the Mishnah, that this minhag, that adults would grab the etrog of the minors, was not a potential stealing case or even a Darkei Shalom. It was the minhag, everyone entered it knowing that this is going to happen. It was a fun, the end of Chag type of thing. Fine, but I can eat it if it's muktzeh. Says Resh Lakish, you see from here, like me. You see like me that by the mitzvah, the muktzeh that is there because of mitzvah, it kasai le mitzvato. Once the mitzvah is gone, you don't have to be abiding by the regular laws of muktzeh, and you can just eat it right there and then. And I have a Mishnah. Shomtim et lulavim ve'ochlin etrogim. They would grab their lulavim, they would eat their etrogim. And says Resh Lakish, don't tell me that there is a difference between adults and minors, that even though that they would grab the etrogim of the minors, but same halakha should be with the etrog of adults that's mutar to eat. So my love, hu adin legdolim. Why wouldn't we assume that the same halakha would apply to the etrog of the gdolim, the adults? Mara says no. Tinokot davka. Rabbi Yochanan would answer that the etrog of tinokot is davka. If anything, really, if we zoom out and take a fresh look at the Mishnah says they would only grab the etrog of the tinokot. It doesn't say that they would eat their own etrogim. Why would they not eat their own etrogim? Says Rabbi Yochanan, because the etrog of the ktanim is not a real muktzeh. Because their mitzvah of etrog and lulav is not real mitzvah. They're ktanim, they're minors. It's really a lemon. They are just, taking it because they are being trained to do the mitzvah. But it's not really a mitzvah, and therefore it's also not really a muktzeh. To the degree that the Gemara says, there are those who said the conversation was exactly the opposite. It wasn't really Resh Lakish that attacked Rabbi Yochanan from this Mishnah, but the questioning line was really from Rabbi Yochanan to Resh Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan said, Resh Lakish, you're making a mistake. Look at the Mishnah in Masechet Sukkah. The Mishnah says, Ikar de Amri, we're going to read it in the Gemara together, there are those who say the questioning was exactly the opposite. It's Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. It wasn't Resh Lakish who asked the question, but it was Rabbi Yochanan who asked the question to Resh Lakish. The Mishnah says they would grab the lulav av ktanim and they would eat the etrogim of the ktanim. So tinokot in gedolim lo. You see from the Gemara itself, the Mishnah itself, that it was only the etrog of the minors, the little kids, that they could eat on the 7th day of Pesach, but not really the etrog of the gedolim. V'hai de katani tinokos. The Gemara answers for Resh Lakish. Says no. Hu adin da'afiru gedolim. Really, it's not. The Mishnah is not coming to tell you that it specifically only was mutar to eat the etrog of the minors. You could even eat your own etrog as the etrog of gedolim. But the story that was happening is being codified in the Mishnah. The katani tinokot orcha de milta katani is what happened. It's not that the Mishnah is indicating that it was asur to eat the etrog of the gedolim, but the story that happened was that they would grab the etrog of the ktanim, and therefore it's mentioned in that way. So it stays as machloket so far. Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, we attempted to bring a raya from the Mishnah, and that proof was shot down, basically. There is no proof to be brought from our Mishnah from the fact that in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, people would actually go grab the etrog of the minors. You can't bring a raya from that because it may on one hand be only specifically a halacha for the etrog of ketanim, but it also could be for gedolim. We don't really have a clarity on that, so it stays as machloket Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. Again, Rabbi Yochanan holds that the entire 7th day is muktzeh, right? Your etrog, even though that you're done with it. Again, nowadays you see some people go, gather the etrogim of people who are not going to be using it anymore after Hoshana Rabbah Shacharit. To do whatever they want to do. Can they start the making a jam process or a liquor process? No, you can't because it's muktzeh. Rabbi Yochanan would tell you, right? And Resh Lakish would say, no, you could do it. Once you're done with it, you could do it on the 7th day. And then Sukkah, everyone agrees that even not only the 7th day, but even the 8th day is asur. Now, says the Gemara, Amar le Rav Papa la'Abaye. This whole Sukkah 8th-day business, Rav Papa said to Abaye, the Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, my shena sukkah, my shena etrog. What is the difference between sukkah and etrog? Hare, in the pasuk, both of them are applicable shivat yamim. Chag HaSukkot ta'aseh lecha shivat yamim, right? Ulkachtem b'yom harishon pri etz hadar blah blah blah, and then he says uspachtem lifnei Hashem Elokechem shivat yamim. Both sukkah and lulav and arava and etrog and hadas, their mitzvah is 7 days. So why would lulav be asur only until the end of the 7th day, and sukkah be asur all the way until the end of 8th day, right? Why is my sukkah muktzeh the 8th day of Chag HaSukkot? 8th day is not sukkah anymore, right? Especially in Eretz Yisrael is not, because they don't have second Yom Tov, so to speak, right? There's no Sfeika de Yoma. So in the 8th day, why would sukkah be asur? Rabbi Yochanan resided in Eretz Yisrael after all. So it says the Gemara like this. Amaleh, So this is again Abaya answering Rav Papa. Sukkah de chazia leben hashmashot. They eat rami lesudat abayi meta begava umechal. Sukkah it's very much alive and kicking mitzvah on ben hashmashot of the seventh day. In other words, the last moments of Chag HaSukkot, on the seventh day of Chag HaSukkot, you are hungry in the afternoon, in the evening time, and you want to go eat something. Where do you have to eat it? Well, if it's not nightfall, you must be sitting in the sukkah. So because the mitzvah of sukkah is alive during the ben hashmashot of the seventh day evening, anything that becomes muktzeh ben hashmashot, we just explained, will stay muktzeh for the entire next day. So therefore, it's very simple why sukkah is going to be muktzeh on the 8th day of the Chag, which is Shmini Atzeret, even in Eretz Yisrael. Because the Ben HaShmashot of yesterday, if I wanted to eat Suda, I would have to eat it in the Sukkah. And therefore, Sukkah is applicable in the Ben HaShmashot of the 7th day evening, and hence, it will stay Muktzeh for the entire 8th day as well. Pretty simple. So therefore, if 8th day in the morning you had a nice wind, and you came and said, oh, very timely, Shmini Atzeret, Sukkah doesn't apply, my Sukkah is on the floor, I'm going to take some of this stuff and take it in and use it at home. Can you do it? Absolutely not. Why? I fell, I'm not destroying anything on Yom Tov. It's Muktzeh. Why? Because Ben HaShmashot of yesterday. But how about Lulav? Lulav is not Chazia le Ben HaShmashot. Nobody takes Lulav on Ben HaShmashot. Everyone has taken it, we assume everyone has taken it already in the morning, and therefore it's not specified for that moment of Ben HaShmashot. So let's read this together. Says Abaye to Rava, Sukkah de Chazia le Ben HaShmashot, Sukkah that is befitting for Ben HaShmashot of the 7th day evening. That if it comes up that you want to eat, or you have guests coming in, whatever it is, by metav begava, you need to sit inside sukkah and eat it. Umechal begava, itkasai leben hashmashot. It's muktzeh for ben hashmashot. Umigu de itkasai leben hashmashot. The famous line in the Gemara that once it is muktzeh for ben hashmashot, then it's going to be Kasai lekula yoma. It's going to stay muktzeh for the entire 8th day. Lekula yoma de shmini. But etrog on the other hand, the lo chazi leben hashmashot. Who takes etrog and ben hashmashot of the 7th day evening? Everyone takes it in the morning, right? You stay up the whole night, right? And you do the Hoshana Rabbah in the morning, and you're done with it. So it's not specified for that time.
But if you didn't do it in the morning?
If you didn't do it, it's correct, but it's not specified for it. In other words, by Chag HaSukkot, even if you ate in the morning, and now you're hungry again, you must go sit in the sukkah and eat it, right? By etrog, if you took it in the morning, you don't have to take it anymore. You're done with it. Sukkah, you're never done with it. Even if you ate 5 seudas, since the morning, you're hungry again, you have to go to the sukkah. There's no two ways about it. It's not like, oh, I did it today, Hazaku Baruch, Hashem is happy. That doesn't work like that. Even if you ate the Suda in the morning, any Suda would require, so it's essentially still time for sukkah. You see the difference? By lulav, if I took my lulav in the morning, Hazak Baruch, I'm done.
But if you did,
if I didn't, correct. But even if I did, by Chag HaSukkot, I still have to. It's the difference. Essentially, it's always time for sukkah, because regardless of how many hours I spend in the sukkah and how many studot I ate, if I decide to eat another, I have to sit in the sukkah. So it's never not time for sukkah for any person. So every person that builds a sukkah, essentially it says that in the Ben HaShmashot of the 7th day evening, it's sukkah. I need it because if I want to eat sudah right now, despite all the sudahs that I ate today, I still have to sit in the sukkah, right? That's the difference between this and lulav, which I did in the morning. It's not time anymore for it. It's like I'm done with it. I do it once a day and good to go. So says the Gemara, therefore, by Ben Hashmashot of the 7th day evening, your lulav and etrog is no longer muktzeh. And once it's not muktzeh on the Ben Hashmashot of the 7th day evening, obviously on the 8th day it's not going to be muktzeh. It's not even sukkah anymore. So this is the two shitas so far. Fine. We have Rabbi Yochanan. We have Resh Lakish. Again, what does Rabbi Yochanan hold? Resh Lakish is a tiny bit more lenient than Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is the one that holds lulav is asur the entire 7th day. You can't eat it after you're done in the morning of Hoshana Rabbah. And sukkah is also asur the entire 8th day. So it's pretty straightforward, Rabbi Yochanan. Sukkah the entire 7th day, and lulav the entire 7 days, and sukkah the entire 8 days. Resh Lakish says, fine, sukkah the entire 8 days, but lulav, not the entire 7th day. The moment you're done after shaharit of Hoshana Rabbah, you could eat it. Those are the two shitas. Now the third shita. V'levi amar, etrog afilu b'shemini asur. He is the most machmir. He says, even etrog is asur, even the entire 8th day. Now you ask, scratching your head, what's that? How did that work? And it's not because of what Rabbi Yehuda says over here, that maybe I forgot to take my lulav and I'm going to take it without bracha and ben hashmashot of the 7th day evening. It's not because of that. The Tosfot says over here, the reason of etrog afilu b'shmini asura, if you take a look, third Tosfot from the bottom, the gazar etrog atu sukkah kefarish beperakama. The reason is, we had this before, in the first perek, that we make a gezerah that if you allow the etrog to be used on the 8th day, people say, what's the difference? Everyone reads the pasuk, he knows, well, etrog and lulav together with sukkah, they're all 7-day mitzvah. So if it's mutter for me to use my etrog on the 8th day, then my sukkah also would be mutter to use on the 8th day, which is, we just mentioned why that's not true. So therefore, we just unify the whole halacha, just like sukkah is asur to use because the Ben Hashmashot of yesterday was sukkah, and therefore it kasai lekula yoma, stays muktzeh the entire 8th day. It will be the same halacha exactly for lulav, even though that there's no tam, there's no real reason, says the Tosafot, and that's the shita of Levi. So we have 3 shitas as far as how muktzeh is my etrog after I'm done with my mitzvah of Arba Minim. So it says, now the Gemara. Ve'avua di Shmuel, Amar, now the father of Shmuel, held etrog b'shvi asur, b'shemini mutar. Avua di Shmuel holds exactly like Rabbi Yochanan. The etrog is asur during the 7th day, but the whole 7 days. So not like Resh Lakish. But on 8th day, he doesn't hold like Avua di Shmuel and Levi were friends, right? So this is machloket to the two friends. Levi says, lulav etrog asur the whole 8 days, just like sukkah. And Avua di Shmuel says, no, 7 days asur, the 8th day will be mutar. So that, which means he held like Rabbi Yochanan, right? Exactly, to make it simpler. He felt like Rabbi Yochanan. Now, Avua di Shmuel reversed himself. Listen to this. Says the Gemara, Kam Avua di Shmuel b'shitate de Levi. After contemplating it, he's agreed with his friend, with Levi, that the entire 8 days it should be asur because of lo plug. And Kam Rabbi Zera b'shitate de Avua di Shmuel. And Rabbi Zera paskined like the original shita of Avua di Shmuel, which is really Rabbi Yochanan, right? Says the Gemara, how do I know that Rabbi Zera holds like Rabbi Yochanan? The Amar Rabbi Zera, etrog shenifsela asur lochla kol shiva. And etrog shenifsela, that became pasul. Rashi says not just etrog that became pasul, but any etrog. Any etrog When you're done with it, still it's going to be asur the entire 7 days of Chag HaSukkot, because it became muktzeh for 7 days. And once it became muktzeh for 7 days, it stays muktzeh for the entire 7 days. But not the 8th day, and you can't also eat it after you're done in the morning of the 7th. So it's entire 7 days, but not the 8th. So that is the shita of Rabbi Yochanan, or the original shita of Abu Shmuel. Now, Amar Rabbi Zera, lo likni inish hoshana liyenuka biyom atava kama. We have spoken about this Gemara several times before, and now we actually have it. It's the Sukkah, the halacha of Rabbi Zera of Sukkah Daf Mem Vav Amud Bet fame, that a person should not give over his arba minim, his lulav and etrog, to his minor child on the first day of Chag HaSukkot. Why not? Says the Gemara, my tama, because the enuka mikna kani aknui lo makni, because a child, provided that they're old enough to understand a little business transaction, meaning ownerships, it has gotten to the age that the Gemara calls peutot, which means you give him the food, you give him a walnut, and he keeps it because he understands his food, and you give him a pebble the same size as a walnut, and he throws it off. He knows that that's not food, right? That age already, that you understand basic acquisitions, that if I give you a walnut, you keep it to yourself, that age already could be koneh midoraita. If you gift that kid something, that gift now belongs halachically to him. Okay, so that's fine. But you know, in order to be able to give to you, he needs dat makneh, and a katan does not have dat makneh. So therefore, up until his bar mitzvah, he can't gift something to you. He could accept, right? He can receive gifts, but he cannot give gifts. So therefore, what's going to happen? You bought this expensive lulav, and you're going there to be mechanech your child. You haven't done your own mitzvah yet, and you give it to your child. And you remember the rabbi yesterday said the halacha that you can't just borrow, right? You have to give it matana al menat lachzir. And you tell that halacha to your child, you're doing chinuch, and then you give it to your child and says, oh, this should be matana al menat lachzir, right? And the child says, no problem, I acquired it right now, come back in 6 years to take it back, right? When I become bar mitzvah. So you can't do your mitzvah anymore. Because now when you take it back, you're borrowing his lulav ha'etrog on first day. Lulav ha'sha'ul, right, is not going to be good enough. You need to have your own lulav ha'etrog, and taking your son's lulav ha'etrog, so to speak, borrowing it from him, not going to work. Owning it, you have no way of owning. You remember we discussed the first shuvah that the Ben Ish Chai ever wrote. It's printed in Sefer Rav Brachot. He must have been 16 years old when he worked in this shaila. He published it later on in his 30s. But the question was like this, that on the first night of Chag HaSukkot, when Ben Ish Chai was a young teenager, the Chashuvei HaKahal come to the Ben Ish Chai's father, right? Rabbeinu Eliyahu, who was the Rav of Baghdad. He was the one that had the position of giving the shir klalis, so to speak, and Shabbat afternoon shirs, and so on. So they came with the following question. They said, in Baghdad, and you got to realize what bracha we have, that every person goes and buys a magnificently clean and nice etrog. It's just a matter of how much money you're willing to spend. Back then, they come to him and said, there is no kosher etrog in Baghdad. None. There's only one. There's only one kosher etrog in the whole of Baghdad, but there is a technical problem. The technical problem is the owner of the house that this etrog tree is in died recently. and he left, Rahman al-Itzlan, he left a bunch of Yatomim. Fine, that's not the problem. The problem is, one of the Yatomim is a Katan. One of the inheritors of this household is a minor. So, you technically have a etrog that has a bunch of owners, and one of them is a Katan. Now, what do? A Katan can't give over his ownership to other people. So how in the world are we going to be using this etrog on the first day of Chag HaSukkah? If all of them were older than Bar Mitzvah, there would be no problem. Just give, on behalf of all of us, bechavot, this is a gift to you. I'm not lachzir, and that would be amazing. So Ben Ishchai worked at this she'ela as a young teenager the entire night. He came early morning before Shaharit, and he was there sitting. Ben Ishchai's household, his father, grandfather, Rabbi Moshe Chaim, they had a very rich sifriya, a very extensive library on the aliyah of their house, and they find him there sitting with dozens and dozens of Sfarim open, working on this sugya. And then again, this turned into the tshuva that's printed in Sefer Sherot Shuvot Rav Brachot, which is a less known Sefer of the Ben Ishchai. But be that as it may, you should not, because of this halacha, you should not be giving a gift to your little kid that's not bar mitzvah yet, because then you can't take it back. Mikna kani aknui lo makni. You could acquire, but you can't gift. Ve'ishtakach dekanafik belulav sheno shelo. And then when you take it from him and you do your mitzvah, you think that this is your lulav and etrog. It's no longer your lulav and etrog, and you're going to be yotze. You're trying to be yotze with a lulav that's not yours, and obviously that would be a problem. Now, once we mention this in the name of Rabbi Zera, we're going to say another magnificent chinuch pearl and a gem from Rabbi Zera. Says Rabbi Zera, Rabbi Zera, lo lema inish leyenuka. You should never tell a child, the yahivna lechamidi. You're going to promise him to give something to him. If you promise a child that you're going to give him something, take a paper and write it down right away. Make an alarm for yourself, not to forget to do what you told them to do. Because if you promise and you don't deliver, Mishum Dayan could be as easy as a child coming to the rabbi in Shabbat morning for a lollipop, and the rabbi says, I'm going to give you after tefillah, right? And then you forget, right? It's not a good thing. Says the Gemara, Mishum Da'ati le'agmure shikra, because you are teaching that child that words and promises mean nothing. That you could say something and you could get away without doing it. Right? Because that's how the fresh mind of a child is wired. They process everything. The reality of the world to them is created by things they experience. They don't have their own reality when they're born. They don't have a sense of self-definition. They get their self-definition from the way we deal with them. And they also don't have the world definition. And when you say something and you don't deliver, you just taught them that words mean nothing, promises mean nothing, and they could, technically speaking, do the same thing, which would mean sheker. They could say something that is not true. So says the Gemara, Shenemar limdu lashonam daber sheker. The pasuk says they have taught themselves to speak lies. Ve'ish bere'eu ya'atelu ve'emet lo yedaberu. Why? Limdu leshonam daber sheker. Because they have taught their tongue to say sheker. This is something you learn. This is something that you pick up from what you are exposed to, and therefore an adult should never say something that they're going to do and not follow through with it. That's what the Rizera says. And again, amazing thing. The Gemara says just one last thing. The same machloket Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish is also a machloket Rav Ravasi. Says the Gemara, the Itmar. Imagine a rich guy that wants to say, every day I'm going to have a fresh etrog. Amazing. So he has 7 etrogim set up as marked day 1, day 2, day 3, right? You have it. What's the halacha? Can you eat them afterwards? Says the Gemara. Amar Rav. Rav says, Kol achad v'achad yotzeh ba v'ochla. Every morning after shacharit, you come and you eat the etrog of that day. Hazak baruch. Right? No problem. Because you're done with it. Tomorrow has its own etrog. Today I'm done. Rav Asi Amar. Rav Asi says, no. Kol achad v'achad yotzeh ba v'ochla lemachar. Says, every one that you're done with, you eat it tomorrow. Because it's the whole day, it's muktzeh. What's the machloket? Same exact machloket as Rabbi Yochanan, Resh Lakish, B'mai kamiflegi, more savar lemitzvah it kasai. One of them holds it is muktzeh for its mitzvah. That's Rav, the shita of Rav. And once you're done with the mitzvah, the muktzeh for mitzvah is very specific type of muktzeh. It is only muktzeh until you're done with the mitzvah. So therefore, I'm done with shaharit. I did my oshanot. Chazak baruch, I could eat it now. Umor savar, but Rav Asi holds lekule yoma it kasai, follows the regular rules and regulations of muktzeh, and therefore once it is muktzeh it kasai lekule yoma, it becomes muktzeh for the entire day. And now we're going to have a fascinating topic of what happens with chutzlaris for us that we keep 2 days of Yom Tov. Now what's going to be the halacha for the 9th day, which is really Safek Shemini of Shemini Atzeret? What exactly the halacha is going to be with that, which Be'ezrat Hashem we're going to discuss in the next shiur.